What's up, everybody? I wanted to make this video because I don't think I can go on making videos on this channel without giving you all like a full story of what has really happened to me in the last 6 years. And so I'm gonna do it here. I I sat down to I was gonna like write a book about my experience, but I mean, honest, I didn't like how it sounded, and it came out real self-helpy, and I don't and I honestly hope that this video will help people that maybe are going through something like this because or have gone through something like this or something. And if you want to leave a comment or share this with anybody that has gone through cancer or a debilitating disease or a terminal disease like cancer, where when you're diagnosed, the prognosis is never good. And also terrifying and changes your life and changes the people around you's life and all of that maybe this might help you. I also think like getting a book published and sitting down and writing all that without some sort of financial upfront would be a lot of my time and maybe wasted, and maybe it would be therapeutic. I don't know, but I have this platform, and thanks to all of you that watch this, that I do have this platform. And if you want to share this with somebody, then I then do. So 6 years ago, my brother was diagnosed with cancer. I've talked about it on some other shows. If you have followed me for a long time, I have talked about it, on this channel before with Good People Association, and I have talked about it briefly on social media and places. But I never really talked very publicly about it because I wanted to respect my brother. He was a very private person. I wanted to respect his kids, and I wanted to. He was a private guy, and he didn't love social. He loved watching things on social media, but he was never a poster on social media. He never posted really. My sister-in-law posted a lot about the cancer journey, and I didn't. And I don't know why that was, but mostly because I think that my brother wouldn't get upset with his wife, but I think he would be annoyed with me, like, and I also didn't. And I'll be honest, I think sometimes if I were to post a lot about it, it would feel clickbaity, maybe to a certain extent. And someone might be like, well, you're making this whole video, isn't this clickbaity? I guess. I don't know. But I couldn't go on making videos without some part of this story being out there in full, so that people would understand exactly who I have been and who I was for the past 6 years. My brother is my best friend. He was I mean, I think there are families out there. It was weird when I first moved to LA, not first moved to LA, but when my brother was first diagnosed, a friend in LA, and friend, I don't know, just a person I knew, was like, "Oh, are you and your brother close?" And I was like, "Yeah, he's my brother." But I guess there are some people out there that aren't close with some of their family members, with their brothers or sisters, and that happens, right? But that wasn't the case with me. My brother and I were very, very close from. I mean, we're only 2 years apart. We were never separated in school. We went to college together. We lived together after college. We're never far apart geographically for a little while there when he was on the East Coast and I was on the West Coast. But really and truly, we made our way to be back together and close together when we were, because I think that's what you do. We had a very idyllic childhood. We had parents that loved us, and we grew up in a beautiful area of the country, in a beautiful house, and we had all the things. We weren't rich, but we had never. My parents made sure that our lives were great, and they did an amazing job doing that. And so my brother and I were extremely, extremely lucky. We never took that for granted. I would never take that for granted, especially now where I'm in my life, how hard it is to work and make money as a person. I would never take that for granted. So my brother was diagnosed with colorectal cancer when he was 38. they found a bunch of tumors in his colorectal region. He was stage 4 right off the bat, but I think that there's a world where, stage 4 is basically a number of tumors. It wasn't to the point where it was hopeless right off the bat. They had caught it early-ish, right? Which is why I think that men and women should start getting colonoscopies, and insurance should start covering colonoscopies much earlier in life. Really, probably around 35 this day and age, because colorectal cancers are on the rise. When he called me to tell me that he had cancer, and I will say I've tried to do this video probably 3 times, and I deleted them all and restarted them. So I when he was diagnosed, I don't know what I was. Like I was honestly confused, to be honest. I mean, I think when your brother calls you at that age, and I was 36, I'm 2 years younger than he is. I didn't like believe it. And I was kind of like, almost like I think he said it so much like, I have tumors. And then I was like, wait, so you have cancer? Right. I don't, it didn't equate. My brain couldn't wrap my head around it. Still this day, I can't wrap my head around it, because if you start asking the question of why, you'll drive yourself insane, because there is no answer to why at this. And so, he went right into chemo treatments. I mean, they had to. I think when you're diagnosed, it's like, we got to get this as soon as we can. It's not like you can wait around and hang out and, like, hope for a better price on on something. You got to go in there, right? And so I remember I went to see him his first chemo treatment, and it had this look on his face. It's very strange. It was almost like he was present, but he was somewhere else. And I think the fact that chemo really does kill every part of you, in order to kill the cancer. It kills. I mean, chemo is a poison, just so everybody's aware. If you have not gone down a cancer route, chemotherapy is a poison. It poisons your body in order to kill. It's like they have to kill the thing that's the worst in your body by killing everything else. And so those first few treatments, I think, were really, really rough on him. And I saw some of it firsthand. I didn't see some of it firsthand. A lot of that information was relayed to me. But again, my brother was a very private person, so he didn't like to talk about it. Didn't like to talk about it at all. My brother was an incredible public speaker, an incredible conversationalist, a very social person. People loved him. He was the funny one, which is kind of funny that I went into comedy. And he found he just didn't want I don't think didn't want the empathy, didn't want the sympathy, didn't want any of that, right? And so early on, I went up there to be with him, and it was just he and I one Sunday. We were watching a Steeler game, and he was early on in his treatments, and we both ate a weed gummy, which, for those people out there that hate on certain types of narcotics that are legal now, like marijuana, like I think mushrooms, psilocybin mushrooms should be, they really did. And the way they're processed now and everything, the safety of it really did help my brother through a lot of the cancer. It helped him mentally, it helped him physically, all of it. Anyway, I was up there, we took a weed edible, and I'm not very good with weed. I've said it on multiple shows. Like I get paranoid. I start thinking about death immediately. I'm not happy. I should never do it. Anyway, we took this weed edible, and we watched some Steelers football, and we ate some breakfast, because you're on the West Coast. And I got on a plane and I flew back to Los Angeles. And when I landed, I had a text from my brother, and all it said was, "Thanks for not asking me about cancer. I love you." Yeah. So it was. I realized then that my brother didn't want to talk about it, and he didn't want to talk about the cancer, and he didn't want anybody asking him how he just didn't want people to ask him how he was doing. He just didn't. He didn't. And He didn't like talking about how he felt because he felt like shit, and he hated the constant, you know, are you okay? People dawdling over him. That wasn't him. That was never him. He didn't. I mean, we're both the same. I don't like massages. Kind of like people touching me. I'm a very like talkative, over communicative person who likes to talk about all of this kind of stuff. But he wasn't. He wasn't. We were very similar in a lot of respects, but he just wasn't. Um, and so I knew then and there that if he wanted to talk about it, he would talk about it. And I think if you have somebody in your life that is dealing with cancer or something of that nature, and they want to talk about it, listen, right? If you're not a therapist, and I'm not a therapist, I think I would make a pretty good therapist, but I can't sit through school at the moment. I don't want to go through school to become a therapist. I didn't do well in school. I did fine. I mean, I graduated college, but I never really liked school. Anyway, when you're talking to somebody about cancer and they have cancer or they have somebody in their life cancer, just listen. And if they ask for advice or you want to add to the story, great. But giving advice to somebody about their own personal journey is not healthy. It's not. If anything, it upsets you as a person. People are like, oh, are you talking to somebody? You should talk to somebody. Are you talking to somebody? You should talk to somebody. I don't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I still don't want to talk to anybody. I'm doing fine. I know I'm doing fine. I'll talk to my wife. I'll talk to the people in my life. I talk to my brother, even though he's not here right now. He's not here anymore right now. He's not here anymore. See, it's really hard to get through this shit, right? And I know therapists do an amazing job, and I know they are a very important part. My mental health is fine. These are certain things. Some people need that. Some people can work through it on their own. I just so happen to be the latter. So I figured out how to get through this certain part. So the first time they diagnosed with my brother is they did a bunch of chemo and a bunch of radiation, like you do. It's kind of the normal MO. And when the doctors went in for surgery, the surgery ended, and they were like, I think we got everything. We think we got everything. Everything that we saw, that we had seen on scans and everything, we got it. Now, you don't say cancer-free unless I think there's like some years, like 4 years or 5 years before you can say it and whatever. But at that point, my brother was cancer-free. And I think that we all looked at it like a blip in a radar, just a blip in our life that was awful, and that he had cancer and that he beat it. Because that's the choosing the positivity of the nature of all, right? That's the choosing of the happiness. That's the choosing of all of that, is that we beat it, that we beat the cancer, and that he did it. When I said we beat it, like he beat it. He struggled. He kicked the shit out of chemo and radiate and all those things. And our life would go back to some sense of normalcy. Now, his life would never go back to the sense of normal health, because when they open up your body and they rip apart your body to take the cancer out, you're never going to be the same. I don't think enough doctors really told us or him just how difficult like post-surgery life would be, because they are basically they are removing parts of your body that you need, that are normal functioning, in order to get rid of a disease that is trying to kill you. Okay. So imagine you have a bridge and they just keep taking chunks out of the bridge. Now the bridge still works and you can cross the river, but you have to like dodge giant potholes and parts of the bridge that are missing. And maybe the bridge sways a little bit. And then, regardless, you guys get what I'm saying, is that the human body has now been fully compromised in order to save it. And so that's where we were. But I had my brother back. He was happy. He was smiling. We were doing things. We played golf. We got together all the time. We laughed. He celebrated his 40th birthday and he didn't have cancer. And it was one of the greatest days, funniest days of my life. It was hysterical. And those are memories that I will have forever, right? And we went about our business. Again, we went about our life like Cancer was always kind of back here, but it wasn't here anymore. It was back here. And so we went on vacation to the Jersey Shores, our favorite place, my brother and I, favorite place in the entire world. We love the Jersey Shore, a little town called Stone Harbor. And right after the beach, he called me and he said the cancer was back. And it went from back here to up here immediately. And this time it was in his lymph nodes and it was spreading and it was not good. Because when it comes back and it comes back in different places, that's when you know it's the shit has hit the fan, right? And so he went right back into the chemo. Now this time we were in COVID, so we couldn't go into treatments with him. You could pick him up. You had to wear masks and gloves, all the things. It was in like high alert chemo, COVID time, well before the vaccine, all of that. And that was really hard because he would have to sit there alone and none of us could be there to entertain him or at least be with him. And then he would come home. And I remember this one day, it still, you know, it hits me in a weird spot, but he came home and he was thrown up really, really bad. And it was this, like the sound of heaving, you know, like worse than any kind of like drunk sorority girl fraternity dude that you hung out with in college puking, like 10 times worse than that. And that chemo kicked the shit out of him. It really did. It beat him to a pulp, to the point where it legitimately drove him insane. Mentally, because they give you all of this chemo and it makes you super, super sick. And then they give you a steroid in order to stay alive, right? They give you this steroid just so you can function somewhat. And it's not even like, I mean, he was still really sick, but the steroid at least helped him like get out of bed. He was still working. He had 4 kids, you know, a wife and a life, and he just couldn't do it all the time. And so he freaked out. He didn't want to take any more chemo, which is totally understandable. And so he told the doctors, and the doctors were like, all right, well, let's just go in for surgery and see what we can do. And this is February of 2022. And I waited on pins and needles all day. I just started with Fan Controlled Sports and waiting for my sister to call, waiting for my sister-in-law to text, waiting. And finally she said, you know, the doctors went in there and they got what they could. They got what they could. Meaning, you know, they went in there for a quick extraction, at least they hoped. And it was an ambush. And so they sewed him back up and basically put him right back on chemo for a while. And we were figuring out at that point, there was only so much chemo that your body can take and do. And then you basically just have to stop treatments and let the cancer win. And that's where we were at that point. And so everything was very sad. I mean, my life now had a gigantic cloud over it. And as a lot of you know, that if you watch this channel or any show or anything I've ever been a part of, I'm a very happy, positive guy. I mean, I actively have to choose it. I take my own advice every day because I have to choose the happiness. I have to choose the positivity, right? I have to, or I will go insane. I will suffer. I will fall into a pit of sadness that I won't come out of. And so every day I have to just choose it and follow the happiness and not the sadness. Now, there's obviously moments when I break down and all of that, but it is really, really difficult. So the other thing that he could do was start applying to these clinical trials, which are very risky and very hard to get into and very few and far between. And for the cancer that he had, there were very few that were working and or worked in general. Just so happened his cancer and his DNA markers, it was really hard. So you apply for all these things, and they found this one trial, and it was thank goodness it was insane. It was either in San Francisco or Houston, and he didn't want to go to Houston. Sorry to the people of Houston, but he said, but he didn't want to go to Houston. He didn't want to have to move to Houston. He didn't want to have to uproot his family and his life and all his people. He wanted to be surrounded by his people in his place, which I totally understand. Um, while all of this was going on, his legs were getting really, really swollen from this lymphedema that you get. And that was always the problem up till the end, where it was because the cancer and the tumors were all through his legs. And so his legs were swelling to 2, 3, 4, 5 times the size of what his legs should be. And it was really, you know, it was hard to watch. It was hard to look at. He really couldn't walk, couldn't sit down. He could only really lay down to relieve the pain. There are some vivid memories of him near the end, even when he could still sort of walk, struggling so mightily. And it's when you grew up with a brother and you're with him all the time, and he was so active and strong, and he played basketball, he played golf, he was a very active person, coached all the sports teams, did all the sports. To see him beat up and decimated like that is on another planet of heart-wrenching and heartbreaking for me, for everybody around him. It's hard to watch. It's hard to stay positive. It's hard to stay happy. It's hard to make jokes. And through the end, he was a very funny and jokey and all of that. You know, his type of humor, he's ruthless. He was awesome. Guys loved him. Girls sometimes loved him. Girls didn't really get. He had very guy sense of humor. If you were around him and you were lucky enough for him to like pick you and make fun of you, it means he liked you. And so, till the end, he was like that. Till the end. But so he got into this clinical trial, and they were going to start it, but they couldn't get these inflammation numbers down. And every couple of days they would test him again, and he wasn't ready. And then they put him on more chemo, and then they put him on more radiation, and they would try and they would try and they would try. And he was supposed to start this trial in like early March around or mid-March around St. Patrick's Day. This was in 2023, I guess. And he couldn't get in because his numbers just weren't hitting. And if you get in and their numbers aren't hitting, the trial could legitimately kill you. I mean, it's called this CAR T thing. They basically like take out blood and re-put in blood. They basically like reboot your entire body, right? To try and attack the cancer cells that are trying to kill you. And so and as this is going on, I'm watching my brother slowly die, right? He's less and less mobile. He's very depressed, all the things all at once. And I remember I was in my office and I got a call from my sister-in-law, and it just said he got in. And they're going to start the clinical trial. And I erupted I screamed in happiness. I started sobbing. I screamed. I sobbed. I went and found Amanda. We both were like jumping up and down because we had been waiting on pins and needles for this to happen. Now, they didn't guarantee any kind of success. They were hoping if it did succeed, they were hoping for 10 years, right? If it would succeed. And so we'd have like a lease on life, basically. But if it didn't, like I don't know, regardless, it was a positive sign. All we needed was like a little bit of positivity, because it was so hard to watch my brother like this. So they get him into this trial, and guys, it worked. Like a month after the trial, he was walking. We were walking like a mile and a half sometimes, maybe even to 2 miles, like trying to get his strength back up. Doing like activities. He was trying to coach some of the kids stuff. He was showing up at places. And I remember it was right around the US Open in 2023. One of our close friends came out, and we both sobbed at a bar. You ever see two men crying in a bar, either something weird is happening, sad, or something very happy is happening. And we were crying at a bar because it was one of his best friends, and it's my brother, and we got him back. He was happy. He was joking around. He had energy again. We went and played golf. I mean, guys, it went from deathbed to him being back in like a month. This trial had worked. It worked. There's your medical miracle. I have a huge issue with God and religion and everything, because if one more person tells me it's God's plan, I'm going to freak the fuck out. Because it's not, I don't know. Whatever God made this their plan, I'm not subscribing to that guy. And all the people that pray to a God that, say that, I don't know, you should be praying to that guy, because you leave a man who's 44 years old with 4 kids, ages 4, 8, 12, and 14, and a single wife. It's not a great plan. Okay. It's an awful test. It's all of it. I have my own issues to deal with. Religion, I'm not going to put it on her. You pray and do whatever, however you want to live. That's fine. Religion, I think, is, again, I have a complicated relationship with it. As long as your religion isn't telling you to hurt people, I'm sure it means well. But don't tell me it's God's plan, because it's not. It's not a fucking plan. But we got some form of medical miracle. I also think that when, God gave us a miracle, it really shortchanges all of the research that those doctors do. Right? The research that all those doctors do in order to create that clinical trial around an insane hypothesis of medicine and how it actually works. That you got my brother from the brink of death to being almost normal, to however normal can be when you've battled cancer for that long. You gave him back to us. And he was happy, and he was mobile, and he was, man, it was everything. We celebrated his birthday. It was, anyway. The cancer came back after about 4 months, and the trial had stopped working. So this was like right around the end of October of 2023, and we were all just destroyed, crestfallen. We had Thanksgiving, and it was somber, and we did Christmas, and it was somber. We actually had a really nice family trip planned to Palm Springs with everybody, and my brother was just in rough shape. He just was very sad, and he didn't feel well. But the one day we did go play some golf, and looking back, had I known that was the last round of golf I would ever play with my brother, it was awesome. We had an amazing time. It was funny. It was fun. It was me, him, my dad, and one of our best friends. And that was the last round of golf we ever played. And then starting around January, I started going up once a week to take him to treatments. He got into this other trial that was a very, very much a long shot, and it didn't work. If anything, it kind of let the cancer go rogue, and his only other option was to do another round of chemo, which would have probably killed him sooner, or this clinical trial. And so they tried the clinical trial, and it didn't work. And my brother went in about a 6-week time from like the middle of January until the beginning of March of that year. And then, he went from being able to walk-ish. Maybe it was a little long. Maybe it was like 3 months, but I went up there for a bunch of treatments with him. And we got, I will say, as awful as cancer is that I got to spend a lot of time with my brother, helping him and being, talking about life. This is where it's going to get sad, and I'm going to have a lot of trouble. So kind of bear with me. We talked a lot about life and his kids and my kid and our family, and he got a lot of time to really reflect on the things that mattered, have the good laughs. For the last, 6 to 8 months of his life, he was relatively bedridden. It was hard every day to see him like that. I helped take care of him. My mom, my dad, his wife, his kids, my wife. We brought him meals, and we had laughs. And we'll say this: never underestimate the power of a really good movie or a funny TV show. My friend Perry Nemiroff, whom some of you might know, was kind enough to get us a code for the most recent Bad Boys movie. You're going to laugh, and I know, but that's our favorite franchise. My brother and I have loved Bad Boys since the first one. We love Bad Boys 2, obviously. And me and him and my mom and my dad all watched the new Bad Boys together. I think my parents at points were like, this is a lot. My parents are conservative Catholics, and they found some parts funny, but I was lucky that I was working remote at the time, and I could spend every day with my brother and his family. And so for this entire summer and for a long time, I was with him every day. Some days long periods of time, some days short periods of time, but I did get to see him every day. Nobody should have to watch their loved ones, especially one that was so young and vibrant, go through what we witnessed. It took everything away from him slowly. Just one day at a time, just kept chipping away. Yeah. I won't go into gory details because I don't think that's really appropriate, but yeah, it was, I don't know. But every day that I got to spend with my brother, I say goodbye to him every night because I didn't know if I would see him in the morning. And I got to laugh and smile with him every day. I unfortunately had to help him do a lot of things that I never thought I would. I had to see looks in his eyes. We made video goodbyes for his kids. And it breaks you down emotionally. It breaks you down physically. It takes everything away from you. One day I was trying to help him get comfortable in bed, and he said, never take your health for granted. And so I won't. I know that. He slowly lost a ton of weight. He couldn't really eat. And we had this vacation plan for the end of the summer to go to the Jersey Shore, kind of full circle. And his kids had to witness the dying of their dad all summer long, and those kids needed some positivity and some light in their life. And so my wife and me and his 4 kids and our daughter, the 7 of us, flew across the country to be with some of our close family at the Jersey Shore. And I woke up every day dreading looking at my phone because I thought I was going to see a text or a call that said, hey, you got to come back. And so we did the best we could to enjoy the shore. And we left the beach and he was still alive. And my sister-in-law called and she said, he's got this thing, it's called a death rattle. And if you've ever been around somebody that's dying, it's sort of like if you threw a bunch of change in a washing machine or a dryer, and just like, that's how the breathing sounds. Right. And he couldn't really talk. And, my sister-in-law called and she said, I don't think that the kids should come home to see this or hear this. And so we made a plan. This is about 4:00 Eastern on a Saturday. And then she called an hour later and she said, your brother wants to talk to you. And he could only say my name. And it was very gargled behind the sound of him dying. And he said my name 3 times. And I said, I love you. I've got this. We've got this. I know that you're always going to be with me. And I will make sure that every day for the rest of my life that those kids know that their dad loved them and he's proud of them. And then our family, that he loved them. And he said my name 3 times. And I said, I love you, and I'll see you soon. I've got this. And about 10 to 15 minutes later, my sister-in-law called again and he had passed. So never doubt the bond between you and loved ones in moments like this. I have an incredible brother who I know is watching me, who is watching over his kids and is with us always, his spirit. like I said, I have a very complicated thing with religion, but I have to believe in some place, shape, or form that he is around somewhere in something. He died on a Saturday. And I miss him every day. And I see him and his kids. And I have good days and I have bad moments. And I think that's part of this. I saw an interview weirdly, somebody, my sister-in-law sent me on Instagram with Billy Bob Thornton, and he said his life after he lost his brother has never been the same, and he'll never get over it. And that any day he's 50% sad and 50% happy at any given moment. And I think that's where I'll be forever. Put together, broken apart, because loss is what the grief and loss and is what we get for loving so hard. Is you love somebody with all your heart, with everything, and when they are taken from you, in this case far too early, you're just broken, and you move, you go on, you do your best every single day to make sure that the people around you are okay too. And I know Ben would want me, and he would hate this video. He was not a touchy-feely guy, like I said. But the reason that I made this video was for him to know how much I love him, and that in posterity, that people out there that may be going through something like this know that there is also somebody out there that is going through it. And if this helps you while you're listening, if you want to talk about it, leave a comment. And my brother Ben was an amazing guy. And if you have amazing people in your life that are suffering or have suffered or have passed, tell them they're amazing every day still, because they hear it. I hope they do. And I hope all of you can find some happiness and positivity every single day. Like I kind of always say, you got to choose it. It's an active choice. I wish I could call my brother or text my brother. I think about it every single day. So the people that you can text and call, do it. It's ways you love than hate. Find the good. I guess I'll see you when I see you. And I promise, obviously I'm going to start making funny videos and cool videos and silly videos. But this one I had to make so that I could move on to do the next part of my life. And that's where I am. So again, love people. You don't know when you're not going to be able to love them physically anymore. Bury the hatchets, get rid of all the grudges and all the things. It's not worth it. It doesn't do you any good. It festers inside you and makes you miserable. Choose happy. You'll be happy. Thank you all. I'll see you on the flip.